hopefully they'll sneak in the back, or they potentially could be online right now. So we give them the option to jump online. Mike, are you ready? Okay. Well, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get going today. We've got a lot of information to kind of cram into an hour today. Mike is filming in the back, so if you ask a question, Laura's going to repeat your question so that the people watching online can actually hear the question. So Laura's donating her time to be here today. She has her own company. She is one of the people I turn to all the time when it comes to technology and social media. And she's actually a professor at Drake and teaches entrepreneurship and marketing. So she is an expert in the field. We're thankful for her time today. So I'm going to turn it over to her and let us get started.
All right. I think it's working. All right. Well, thank you for having me. This is actually one of my favorite topics, talk about technology tools and gadgets, and I'm kind of a geek that way, so I'm glad that I have an audience to talk to about this topic. So we're going to talk about some small business apps, and I have to tell you, because I'm in marketing, I had that inclination to want to just go just for marketing apps, and I was mentioning that I pulled myself back and tried to find 5 that I just have loved and used for years, and that I think are really fascinating, that you may or may not have heard of. But we'll talk a little bit about, how you can use them. And then I'm going to give you a lot of resources where you can actually look into some other apps if what I'm sharing today isn't quite what you need. And some good places to find them and some good things to consider when you're thinking about it. So it's a little bit about my background. Again, I am a professor at Drake University and at DMAC. I'm also doing a small business marketing, digital marketing. We're developing a content with Facebook coming up at DMAC, so you can be on the lookout for that. And I do have a company that I just started as well called Curated Growth. So one thing that I like to talk about is every company is a tech company. If you think about it now, if you really think about what it takes to operate a business, even small businesses, you're kind of all tech companies now. I sometimes ask people to just yell out what kind of technology to use. I think people are surprised at how much technology they depend on day to day. And there's just a growing emphasis on technology to run even the smallest businesses. When you think about QuickBooks and just all those things, we're all using it for some pretty important things in our business. So. And according to Stephanie Stone, the quote here, every company is a tech company, and no matter what product you provide, and that the companies that don't embrace that idea and keep growing with technology are going to get left behind. So the future companies that will shape the world will be very embracing of technology. So first of all, what's an app? And I think that a lot of people always hear app, and they define it immediately with mobile, right? So those apps that you download onto your phone. But actually, it's just a short form for application. So here gives you a few definitions here. Information technology, it's an application programs. Also, it's short for application program. And then we shorten it even further and just call it an app. But there certainly are apps for your mobile phone, and then apps that you would go and use through your desktop as well. And sometimes, and oftentimes, they have a version of both, right? So the other thing that gets talked about a lot, especially if you're in the IT world, is a technology stack. So traditionally, or where that came from in the IT world, a technology stack is really these applications that work together specifically for web development. Okay, but that term has kind of started to get coined for other industries as well. So you'll see marketing technology stacks. And so this is a group of technologies that work together to help you do your marketing. So when you think about what's in your marketing technology stack, this is another subject where people think, oh, I didn't realize I had a marketing stack, but they do when they start thinking about all of the different technologies. So we'll talk about that more as well. So what's a small business tech stack look like then? So we'll look at that a little bit. Whether you're growing a team or you're just on your own, you have a lot of hats that you're trying to wear. You have a lot of things that you're trying to do all by yourself. And so the more that you can look at some technologies to incorporate into your small business to help get some things done, the more you will have time to spend on other things. So there's always an opportunity cost, right? In spending time doing administrative things when you could be out selling or doing some other aspect of your business. So technology really in a small business is intended to give you the opportunity to do other things that would be more valuable and not spend so much time on the things that have to get done but that maybe you don't like doing, or it would be better if you didn't have to spend so much time on it, right? So what is in your small business tech stack? And first of all, let's think about that marketing tech stack for a minute. Just beginning there, and you start thinking about that as a small business. Digital marketing, for example, specifically is using digital technologies to deploy a marketing program. So you already probably have several things in your marketing tech stack if you're doing any kind of digital marketing. And the fact is that marketing itself can't really be separated from the business. It really embodies all aspects of the business. So when you think about, if you've ever had any marketing courses over the years, marketing is product and place and price and promotion. Now, we always tend to think of marketing as the promotion part, that part where you're advertising and promoting your business. But in fact, it touches on so many aspects, including how are you distributing the product, how do you relate to the customers, how do you do follow-up. It really impacts every aspect of the business. So when you start thinking about marketing and marketing technology stacks, even as a small business, you're going to deploy a lot of different technologies to run your business. This is what a marketing technology stack might look like. So you will have a need for analysis. In bigger companies, that could include some data visualization, but let's think about that. What is data visualization? Even if you go to Facebook and you look at the back end of analytics, you will notice that they have some graphs and some charts and some ways that you can see who visited your page and what time of the day. That's all data visualization from an analytic point of view. The bigger your company gets, the more you may want to see analytics and in terms of graphs so that it makes a lot more sense to you. Attribution relates to, can we track and tell if we did this marketing thing, is that what drove that person to our website, for example? You're able to attribute that lead to a particular thing that you did. So if you look at the back office, you might have your CRM, which is your customer relationship management system. Your CMS is your is part of your website in terms of the content management system that you use. And so you have all these back office things. Then you have the things that relate to the experience with the customer. So your e-commerce engine, your mobile apps, then marketing and advertising, search advertising, email. So all of these things relate to a marketing technology stack. And even though this sounds really technical, many people in small businesses have already adopted so many of these things, and they just don't realize. This is looking at a journey for a customer where you have the objectives and the strategies that your company's using. Then you have this content that you're creating. It could be a video, could be a post, could be a blog. And then you're looking at where is that content visible on what kind of social media channel, for example. And then you're looking at where do you ultimately want the customer to go? Do you want them to go to your website? Do you want them to come into your store, for example? And then you have to have some kind of a bridge that gets them from the online world to the place that you actually want them to be, either physically or onto your website. That bridge also is a piece of technology. It is a link, for example, that takes them right to your sign-up form. It could be a button that is on your mobile app so that when they want to find your, they want to call you, for example, all they have to do is click with their thumb. Okay, so those are the bridges that make it easy for you to allow them to take the action and do the thing that you want them to do. That's all part of your technology stack. So so we talked a lot about marketing, but these are all things that you can use technology to help in your small business. So there are accounting and finance, payroll, apps, things that help you track expenses for taxes, for example. Also recruiting, onboarding, HR, time and expense tracking, payment processing if you are doing any kind of e-commerce or any kind of payment where someone's coming into your store, for example. How are you billing clients? Internal and external communication, project management, different kinds of time management and productivity applications, sales lead and customer management, so that would be like your CRM systems, marketing and advertising, and then also some things that can help you be more creative and do some of your own design work. So these all could be in your application suite for your small business. So what I want to talk about before I sort of reveal my 5 favorites, or we'll kind of touch on some of them as we go, is how do you actually pick the right app? There is so much technology out there for you to choose from, and as soon as you are in a business, you'll be inundated with people that want you to, adopt their new, shiny application, right? So we're going to kind of compare it to dating, and some of the things that you need to think about before you get married to one particular app or another. So first of all, don't marry the first app that you meet, because you're going to have someone reach out to you, and they're going to say, oh, this app, it's so great, it does all this stuff, and then you'll be really inclined to want to adopt it, and then you'll go down the road and realize, I don't know. It didn't really deliver everything. I'm not really sure about it. I really wish I would have tried a couple of other ones before I adopted it. So date a few first, do some trials, make sure that you really want to get married to this app. Also, don't rush to ditch a particular app or get hitched to it. So some apps you're going to love immediately. You're going to just take to it right away. It's really easy and intuitive, and you'll think, wow, how did I live without this? Other ones, once you get to know it better, you will start to realize all the cool things that it has to offer, and that may take some time. It may take some time for you to get used to it. So just don't ditch it too soon before you've really given it a chance, and also don't, just like not getting married to one, the first one you meet, don't get married to one too soon either. Make sure that you really test it out, that you try other things, that you maybe even get some reviews or some comparisons. And then, of course, also make sure that it plays well with the other technologies in your life. Okay, so you may love it, but then it doesn't really integrate much with other things that you're already using. So also, think twice before you get married to an app that's too young or too broke. Okay, so what do I mean by that? This is going to be my story of my love affair with Springboard. And Springboard, it was beautiful and seamless, and it was everything I needed in an app, and I organized all my content and all my projects, and then I immediately started telling everyone else that they should have this, that it's an important part of their content management system, and so I started teaching classes, and I even started putting resources on Springboard for other people. And then Springboard, after not being able to monetize their beautiful application, decided that they were going to have to close down. So I adopted them really soon while they were really young, and they didn't have a good plan for how they were actually going to make money. So after using them for almost 2 years and devoting, like, literally, I can't even tell you how much hours and how much stuff I put on there, then Evernote did a migration. They didn't actually even buy them. They closed down, and fortunately, they were kind enough to figure out how you could migrate your content from from Springboard over to Evernote. Unfortunately, I never really liked Evernote as much as I like Springboard, and so I didn't end up adopting that. I found some other things, but it was really painful, and I wish that I would have maybe waited in a little bit more slowly with it. So also that brings up, people complain all the time about Facebook and charging for things and all of the things that started out free. And I have to tell you, be concerned if they don't have a model for revenue, because if they're broke, they can't keep continuing to provide this great application for you. So it's really actually important that they have a means of paying for this wonderful program before you fall in love with it. So that kind of leads me to one of my favorites, which is Feedly. And Feedly came about for a couple of reasons. I also fell in love at one point with Google Reader. I don't know if anyone used Google Reader at any time, but Google Reader was my go-to for all of my blogs. So that was the kind of thing that you could find a blog, save the blog, it would go into the Google Reader application on my phone, and while I was waiting in the checkout line, I could read my blogs, I could find them, put them in folders, and it was just wonderful. And then Google decided that they would also close Google Reader down. I'm like, why? You have money, keep it going. And for whatever reason, Google just decided that wasn't going to be something they were going to support anymore. And so I managed to find Feedly. And I actually love Feedly. Feedly works, I think, better than Google Reader did. And in addition to having the ability for you to find the blog posts and have them feed into particular folders for you to read later on, they also have knowledge boards, so you can actually go out, find an article, and then kind of like a Pinterest, if anyone's ever used Pinterest, and they have the little pin it button, and you can just click on that, and it'll ask you which one of your knowledge boards do you want to put that article on. So I use Feedly for a way to research content that I want to organize and then ultimately share with my own readers in my marketing process. So, and at the same time, it gives me to organize articles that I go out and find on my own. So the other thing that I really love is IFTTT. So this website, has anyone actually ever heard of IFTTT before? Okay, do you use it? Not so much? Okay. But you're aware of it? I started using it, and then I switched. Yeah, and that happens, right? Sometimes you fall in love with it, and then it doesn't become part of your regular use every day. But if you are looking for a way to get some of your technology to integrate together, it allows you to bridge some of that integration by creating formulas. So, for example, if you tweeted something with a particular hashtag, you could write a formula in IFTTT, and actually they have a lot of formulas already written, they call them recipes, that someone else might have even written, and you can actually even just adopt that formula. But you put in the hashtag, put in the login to your Twitter account, put in the login to your Google Doc, and it will automatically record every single tweet that had that hashtag in it. So if you were doing a contest, for example, and you wanted to capture everyone that used the hashtag for your contest and have it all put onto a document, as long as those things are available with logins online, then it will use the recipe to grab that piece of content and deposit it wherever you want it to go. And it does a whole bunch of other integrations like that, particularly with social media, but allows you to just get a lot of things to play together that wouldn't otherwise without it. So I've kind of used that as well. With Feedly and then with IFTTT, another one that we'll get into later on with project management, there were kind of three things that I ended up adopting after I after Springboard left me. So also, you can't make a decision about an app you didn't actually date. So how many times have you signed up for a trial and then you really didn't have time to devote to the trial, and the trial ended, and then you never really gave it a shot? So you can't make a decision about something if you didn't actually try it. So really think about the time. Do you have the time to devote to it, to really give it some serious consideration? And just don't start the trial unless you really feel like you have the time to get started with it. So I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me, and then I've had to call and say, hey, I started this trial. I'm begging you. I need to have an extension or start it over because I didn't really get a chance to use it. So just make sure you have time to actually devote to the dating process with the app before you start the trial. Then also, it is okay to fall in love with a no-frills app that helps you do one thing better and makes your life easier. So we're talking about a lot of integrations that apps have and how they can all work together, and several of them will integrate with all kinds of other technologies in your life, but sometimes you just want an app that just does one thing really well, and it's clean and it's simple, and it's okay, especially if you don't really know what you need, to just find an application that you love that just does one little simple thing. And so for me, that's my love affair with Note by Squarespace. So that is an application that I have on my phone, and it looks like this, similar if you go to the App Store. And it's very minimal, it's very elegant, and it's really created to just do one thing: be able to write notes to yourself on the fly. So, how many people have sent a text message to themselves so that they could remember something? Okay, yep, so we do that all the time. And this is even more simple than doing that. So, when you click on it, it brings up like a notepad. You write whatever quick message. It allows you to take one picture to go with the message if you would like. And when you're setting it up, it asks you to program where do you want the message to go. So it can go in a number of places. It doesn't have to go to your email. Mine is going to my email. It can also go to, I think it integrates with Google Drive or a whole bunch of different things. So you pick where you want the note to go, and once you type it, you literally just swipe up, and it sends it there. And then when I go to my email, all I have to do is type in note, and it'll bring up every note I've ever sent to myself. So the cool thing about it is that you don't have to open an email, type a message to yourself, or open a text and try to find yourself as the contact. It eliminates all that. You just make the note, swipe, and it goes to where you want it to go. And that's all it's made to do, period. But it can work really well also for a social media strategy. For example, if you were out somewhere and you didn't want to post something right now, you could have it programmed to go into maybe one particular email where you put posts, social media posts maybe that you want to do in the future, or a blog post. You can take a picture, maybe type in the message with a hashtag or whatever you want, swipe it, and then when you go to that email account, the picture along with the post that you were thinking to go with it could be all in one place. And you could also use this as a way to work with maybe an intern where you don't really want it posted yet, but you just want them out there taking pictures and writing some comments where you could look at it then before you post it. And maybe you could even be back at the office and looking at them real time and then deciding what you want to post. So that's another way that you could use that as part of a process. So number 6, decide what you need in an app before you really get serious with it. Okay, so sometimes we know we need some help with something to make our life easier, but we really haven't developed a process yet to really know what we need in an app. So if you were looking at a CRM system, and we talked about this a little bit before, how complex do you need it to be? How simple do you need it to be? How many users will it need to take before you have to pay more money? Do you want it to be able to integrate with any other part of your accounting system. So it goes on, and if you don't really know what your process is, what you're using for other things, what your budget is, you could really get involved in an app that is way too complicated, way too soon in your business, and maybe there were some simple things that you could do before really adopting a full-blown system. So just don't get really serious about one application. And what happens sometimes is that we get a little paralyzed then, because we think, well, we could go to the next level in our business if we had this software or we had this, and then instead of just finding a system that you can use in the meantime, you get sort of paralyzed by feeling like you need to look for the very perfect thing before you can even move forward. So I suggest just move forward and get a system, and as you go, you'll realize, oh, I need this or I need that as I go along. So number 7, establishing a workflow, kind of related to that, will help you know what adding a little tech in your life could really do to help you and what you're really longing for in an app. What problems can really be fixed. And so that's the reason why I can't live without Trello. So after creating a process for myself, I realized there is just no way that I ever got through life without this. I organize my projects, my classes, client work, my budget. I mean, everything from personal to business, teaching, any kind of project I'm doing with Trello. So Trello is a fun and flexible way to get more done. It's a visual, easy-to-use productivity platform. It actually does integrate with 30 other applications, so it's very robust. I don't even get close to using all of the integrations that it can do. And there's more than 20 million people that use Trello for their different tasks and projects. So this is important because if there's 20 million people that have adopted it and it's been around for a while, you can feel a little bit secure in like putting your whole life investing into Trello. So that I always want to point out, how long have they been around? Are they monetizing? Do they have a good free and premium model? Do they have a lot of people already on there? That way you can feel secure in adopting it. So for example, at the end of this presentation, you will have access to a link that goes to the Trello board for this presentation. So that includes applications by category, probably, well, I'll keep adding. So, but I have them grouped by category with my favorites, the ones that I've talked about today, but dozens and dozens of others that you can look at, and it'll all be on the Trello board. You don't have to have a Trello board yourself. You can still look at it publicly, but then if you want to kind of play around with it, they have a really robust free version that most people get along with the free version quite well. So Trello is probably my biggest go-to. My second one that I use all the time is Canva. How many people are familiar with Canva.com? So Canva.com makes you look like a really gifted graphic designer, even when you're not at all. So as long as you have a little bit of an eye, it gives you a layman tool at your fingertips where you can do great social media posts and memes and even put together a flyer, a brochure, so digital, and also the ability to do a print flyer. And you can put it together yourself, design anything, and publish it anywhere. And they have a ton of templates that are already created for you. You can also do the premium version, which is not super expensive, where you can upload all your own fonts and colors so you can have kind of a nice branding so that every time you pull up a template, it'll automatically pull in your brand colors to use and your fonts. So it does have a mobile application, but I usually use it on the desktop, to be honest. I think it's easier there. And so you're able to download as a JPEG, as I think, PDF, both in a high resolution and a lower resolution. So it gives you some options. So if you want to take something to print or if you want to just be able to have a JPEG that you can put on social media, it gives you all of those options. Plus, it sizes everything automatically for you. So if you say that you're going to do a Facebook post, it will automatically bring up the size that you need to bring up to make the post to fit exactly within those requirements. So tip number 8, breaking up with an app should not be hard to do. So when you go to break up with an app and you find out that it's not going to allow you to download any of your information or have access to it. So for example, recently I decided not to renew subscription to something. I just decided it wasn't that valuable to me after all. But I had actually put a lot of things in there. So you need to make sure that you're able to download those things and that it's easy to do that and that they don't make it so difficult. Because I would suggest that if you're in a trial and you need to upload a lot of stuff so you can decide if it's useful, and then they aren't going to make it easy for you to get that stuff back out, I don't even know if I would go down the road of putting a lot of effort into it then. And at some point, you may find something better anyway, way down the road, and you could have put a lot of stuff in there. And so I ask people right away, find out what it takes to get your information back out of it before you even go down the road with it. So, and the other thing is, be careful about automatic renewals. So there's a statistic that if it costs less than $5 a month, we just forget all about it and we just keep paying month after month. So that's actually a strategy that some mobile applications use, is they keep their price around $5 because they know that you won't take the time to figure out how to end it. And so I found this to be true when my husband went through our bank account and said, "Why do you have 7 things coming out of our account that are totaling probably close to $100? And he said, "What are you using all this for?" And I realized that I also was guilty of having things that were just automatically renewing and I wasn't paying any attention to it. So, but also some of them require things to stop it, right? So you can't just go and end it. They want you to write to them. They want you to put in an email request. I mean, there's, so just be careful if they make it really difficult for you to break up. And also just be careful of those automatic renewals that they just sort of count on. You're never going to stop. And number 10, use an app matching site to figure out what's really the best app for you that can really help match your needs to what the different applications have to offer. So I really like going to G2 Crowd. And G2 Crowd has just about every application you can think of, and they do comparisons. They do comparisons themselves, and they also have a group of reviewers that they will pay that use the applications, and then they pay them for their reviews. And so you'll get a pretty robust group of people that are kind of rating these and saying what they like about them. And then also Capterra, I haven't used that as much, but it is also another one that you can use to compare softwares. So also, if you are really interested in the bright, shiny new applications, and you don't want to, get too invested too soon, like I did with Springboard, but you're just interested, or maybe you just haven't been able to find anything out there, you'd be amazed at how many new companies under VP profiles are actually developing new technology applications all the time. And you can read a little bit about their companies and their applications and when they got started. And also, I really like Product Hunt. Product Hunt is a little bit addictive. They have push notifications, and every day they are presenting a bright, shiny new object to you. But I've also found some really cool tools on there that I have adopted, or I've even just adopted for a short time for just some fun project or something that I was working on. So my top 5 apps are Trello, Canva, Note, Feedly, and IFTTT. And I'm going to throw in a couple of bonuses with Wave and Slack. So when I started putting all of this together, I also looked at probably 2 or 3 dozen different articles about technology for small businesses. And I've put a lot of those on that Trello board that I mentioned. But I also kind of started to put stars behind some of the softwares that people came up over and over and over and over again on these different lists. And Wave was one of them, and Slack was one of them. So I personally don't use Wave and Slack, so I'm going to give that disclosure. But I know a lot of people that use both of them and that recommend them highly. Wave is a free accounting software, so free is always good. And how they make their money is they have some other HR add-ins and some premium things, but I know several small businesses that use Wave for their accounting and just love it. And if they never did anything else, they would just continue to be able to use Wave for free. They do have a little bit of I think if you use Wave to do your invoicing, they might take a small little transaction fee as part of that process, but the accounting part is totally free. And then Slack is basically an internal messaging and communication system that helps you collaborate. So small teams of people, or maybe you're using a freelancer offsite, and it's a really great way that you can work on projects in real time with them. So Wave is an award-winning free accounting software, seamlessly integrates with financial services for small businesses. Millions of small businesses trust Wave. Again, I like the idea that there's millions of people already using it. Also then, Slack, where work happens when you have a team, you need to kick off a project, hire a new employee, any of these things, A/B test, and you're just needing to be able to communicate back and forth in real time. That is Slack. So I'm going to, if I have time, make sure we're good on time, we're going to talk a little bit about technology innovation and what's predicted by the year 2030. And time permitting, I'll also open up a few of these applications so then I can kind of show you the inner workings of them and answer any questions that you might have about the 5, at least that I picked out. So first of all, disruptive innovation by 2030. 3D printing, big data, medicine, telemed, a lot of remote medicine that's happening through technology applications. There's going to be 1 trillion sensors predicted that will be connected to the internet by 2022. So any kind of sensors in your home, on your clothes, watches, different technologies that are even connected to your appliances, all of those sorts of things. 1 trillion sensors. 10% of the world's population will be wearing clothes that are connected to the internet by 2022. By 2024, more than 50% of the internet traffic to homes will be from appliances and devices. The first implantable mobile phone, implantable mobile phone. I'm never doing that, ever. But supposedly, someone will be doing this by 2025, it's predicted. And the first government will replace its census with big data technologies by 2023. Also, the first 3D printed car will be available for production by 2022, it's predicted. I will say that this was done about a year or so ago, and a couple of these I'm like, I don't think that's happening that quick, but it's going to come soon. The first transplant of a 3D printed liver will occur by 2024, and I actually have seen some stuff on artificial organs already making the news right now. 10% of reading glasses will be connected to the internet by 2023. The first robotic pharmacist will arrive in the US by 2021. 90% of the global population will have a supercomputer in their pocket by 2023. Access to the internet will become a basic human right by 2024. 90% of the population will have unlimited and free data by 2020. That did not happen. I don't think that's happening, but I think their point is that knowledge and access to knowledge and the fact that the internet is what brings that is going to really pressure. I know that there's some, Google is doing some, even here in the Des Moines area, is doing some free Google Fiber types of, especially in rural communities or communities that don't have access, underprivileged communities. The technology companies are really trying to make that available because we don't want just certain people to have availability to knowledge through the internet. So it's also going to impact the workforce, automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning. We're hearing about these things all the time. Even in small businesses, chatbots, virtual assistants, there's really easy ways that you can already insert some of these things into your websites. And that's going to replace the need in some ways for people. So it's just something to look at. It's predicted that 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet. So that's 12 years. So, and that was talking a little bit about disruption. Now we could talk a little bit about total destruction, kind of like when the typewriter became obsolete, right? So it's predicted that blockchain, how many people are familiar with blockchain? So how about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin? Okay, so Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, and blockchain is the technology that allows Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to exist. So it's not just about money. It's going to vastly eliminate many barriers to global trade. It basically is a ledger of transactions. So that could be money, but it can also be any number of other things like tracking freight shipments, all through an online ledger. So blockchain, originally blockchain in 2 words, is a continuously growing list of records called blocks, which are linked and secured by blockchains that are managed by miners using encrypted technology for safety. The things that you can do with it, they predict that it will not only just disrupt how we do things, but it's predicted that it will change our way of doing business more than the internet did. So it's hard to imagine life before the internet. For those of us that are old enough to have been around before, I can't even think back to how hard it was to get certain things. And they're predicting that blockchain will actually impact us even more than the internet did in terms of how we are able to associate on a global level. So it's a foundational technology and the potential to create new foundations. And this is going to impact even small businesses because it's going to impact eventually how you can even, you could use Bitcoin, for example, to pay for something. You're going to be able to use this technology in many ways. So in addition to just being aware of it, you can start to think of how, learn about it, and then think about how you do something now and how you could even leverage that to be ahead of the curve in terms of your small business, potentially. So right now, the blockchain ecosystem, what all these logos represent, are all of the startups that are presently working on business ideas related to blockchain. So the ecosystem is already pretty large. Okay, so as I promised, you'll be able to find a link to small business apps by those 10 categories that I mentioned early on that will be on the Trello board. I'm using Bitly, which is a technology where you can shorten a link and give it a custom name. So Bitly/small business apps will actually bring you to the Trello board. That's where you'll land. And how are we doing on time? Okay, so I'm going to bring up a couple of things and then also see what questions people have. Maybe I will. I'm not sure if I know how to toggle. In the meantime, what questions do people have And then I will be glad to bring up a couple of these. I've got them logged in so you can kind of look at what they look like on the inside. Any questions? No? Okay.
I wish I would have came to this and heard you before.
Well, so what are you using for your CRM now?
Agile.
Oh, okay. And I'm not, it's just Agile CRM? Okay. And I haven't played around with that. So there are so many out there. And you say you wish. Does that mean that you've had some disappointment? Yeah. So how long have you been using it?
I'm still about a month.
Okay. So
definitely. I wanted to, but I was kind of pushed.
Uh-huh.
That can happen.
Yeah, sometimes the parents push the date on you, and you don't have a choice about it, right? But remember, don't get discouraged. Maybe you'll learn to love it over time.
And I've been in contact with them too. I mean, their customer service is good.
Okay.
The difficult thing is they're based out of India. He's very helpful, but they do have a big new release update coming out.
Okay.
Eventually. But no, because we just came from, we're using ACT,
Okay.
and
And it just wasn't working anymore.
almost 20 years of
Yeah.
there, and it doesn't go into.
So anytime you have a big migration like that, I don't care which CRM you picked, you would be sitting here going, ugh. Yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot of work to migrate. Some things are better than others. I don't know how much they talked about the migration system and ACT. Since you weren't part of that conversation, probably those are the kinds of things that you always want to ask. Okay, we have 20 years worth of data. What's it going to take to migrate it over? And
It's easy.
it's just
importing the CSV file, it's just mapping.
Okay.
So it's easy to get in there, but
it's just
the
so
export
difficult.
wasn't the same format as the import.
Oh, okay. So, and it's hard to know all the questions to ask. With those, especially in a CRM system, there's a lot to consider. And especially if you had a lot of data before. Sometimes when you're just starting new and you're a small business, it's not as much of an issue. But it always takes a little bit to get used to. I'm going to show you guys a really quick.
And today we're looking at Squarespace Note for iOS. It's a brilliant little note-taking app, and best of all, it's free.
Just watch.
Simply put, Note is a note-taking app. Once you launch, it's ready for you to jot down your ideas immediately and save them with a quick swipe up.
About Note,
However,
simple
its simplicity is only half of what makes it.
And do you see how they just swiped?
Note can sync your notes across several
And
different
you can send it
services,
to any of
including
these
Evernote and
different
Dropbox.
applications that it's
You
connected
can even
to.
have it email you or post to Twitter and Facebook. You can, of course, look at all your previous notes and edit them as well. And it's all done beautifully.
Basically,
everything is just a swipe away. The focus
you could
is
just
on
do
writing.
a really quick
And it comes
note to
through in the
yourself,
Spartan
swipe it,
utilitarian
connect it to all
design
these
of the
different
app.
things, and it's just that
When it
simple.
comes to notes on
so I wanted
iOS,
you just to
pretty
kind of
much
see what that
anything
looks
is better
like.
than the default Notes app. But if you want something that gets out of your way, doesn't get bogged down in tags, notebooks, rich.
And then I'll show you a look at Canva on the inside here. So these are all projects that I've created on Canva. So this is my son's lost iguana, which is very sad. And we have posted it on social media channels, and then also we're able to download it as a PDF and have it printed. And I've even been able to just send that print file to like FedEx, Kinko's, and print it, and it worked really nicely. This was a whole vision book, so that was like a 20-page book that I created. Done some single-page prospectuses. So just you can see all these different projects, and when you go to create a design, it's going to ask you, do you want it as a presentation, a poster, Facebook cover, an Instagram post? And when you click on Instagram post, for example, it's going to automatically bring up the exact size. And and this is not my first design. They actually have a 2.0 that they're pushing out and trying to train people on. So I've done hundreds on here, but the new version of it looks really cool. I just haven't played with it a lot. But they have templates that you can drag over, and then you can replace that with your own words, your own colors, and you can also upload your own images and use those in the templates instead of the pictures that they have. So in addition to that, they have a library of stock art that's only $1 to use. So if there's some elements that you like that you don't have a good image for, they have a lot of elements in there for you. The other thing that I mentioned that I'm really in love with is Trello. So this is the Trello board that I built for this program today. And so I have them, again, organized by productivity, organization, CRM, sales, design and marketing, HR, time tracking, expensing. And you'll notice that there's a bar here, which means that I actually have more lists. So if you just scroll, you can see that there's a whole bunch of other articles and research and some things on expensing, invoicing, etc. So when you're using Trello, this is a list, and those are cards. And when you open a card, you can open the card and, oh, in this case, I just had that start as one of my favorites, but let's open one that I've actually started to put some things in. So here is one. I just put some information about before the presentation. And then I also did a bunch of research. So you can make checklists. You can add a checklist on here. So in this case, I just listed some different articles. This could be a checklist, and you can literally check it off, and it'll show you how far you've done on your project. You can add a due date. You can add different labels to organize things. You can attach documents. And I have yet to find a space limit. I have all of my presentation documents uploaded. So I have things that I save on my computer, I save on Google Drive, and then just obsessively I also upload them all here, because then I can get at them through the site, and it's just a third place for that to be. And unlike Google Docs, where everything's in a folder and you have to drill down into the folder and into another folder, this is laid out very visually so that you can pretty easily locate what you're looking for. And in Trello, these are boards. So that's the board that I just opened with all the lists, but these are boards that I've created for other things. And you can star the board so that they bring the board that you're working on right now up to the top. But just to give you an idea of my exception, how much I use it, those are all boards for projects. And so you can also invite different teams to be on a particular board, or maybe you have a team that's working on a collection of boards, and most all of this is available through its free version. So there's very few things other than some integrations and a few different advanced things, but most of this is all available. And I won't go into IFTTT, but this is basically, when you go to that website, you'll be able to go in there, search through different, so what they're trying to show you is that you can have, it could be your watch, it could be the cloud, it can be Alexa, but you can use IFTTT to get all these things to coordinate. So you could do a list with Alexa and have that list transcribed into an Excel spreadsheet, for example. I mean, so it'll do all that for you. Anyway, I think I'm out of time now. Any other questions on what I've shown so far? Yeah, no.
If you have a specific question about a specific app, she probably
yes.
knows, so I will take that back over.
Let's thank Laura for her time today, and she'll hang around and answer a few questions as well. I want to briefly mention, it's kind of like going back to school. You have a stack of paper in front of you. That is all small business events that are coming up. We kick back into high gear in the fall so that everybody can finish off their year strong. So a couple coming up is September 7th is our Female Entrepreneurship Series. It will be here this month. We are featuring the great Frame Up and her kind of journey to entrepreneurship. She has an amazing story that did not involve entrepreneurship and landed in that role. So she will be here with us on September 7th. On September 11th is a brand new event. You'll see creating a new revenue stream for your business. And really what it's focused on is e-commerce. And when I talk to small businesses that have been around forever, they say e-commerce is one of the biggest things they're afraid of, whether they're a service, whether they're a restaurant. As we've seen just in the last year, both Uber Eats and Grubhub have pushed into Des Moines. That technology is affecting restaurants. So you're either going to join them or you're going to try to battle against them. And this whole session is a half-day session for $25 on how to actually join them and start thinking about that as an additional revenue stream for your business. It's limited to 80 seats. We have a Google trainer flying in to actually teach one of those sessions on how do you actually measure your success online. So a lot of people are online, they have no idea what their ROI is for what they do online. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to encourage you to jump on and register quickly. September 6th or 26th, we'll be back in here for top 5. How many of you use QuickBooks for your accounting? Okay, it's one of the number one accounting services that people use and log and invoice and all of that. We have top 5 things you need to know about QuickBooks, and it's going to be taught by McGowan, Hurst, Clark, and Smith. We have 2 people coming in to teach that. It will be a great session to be at if you are going to file your taxes this year and you use QuickBooks. So I'll put that little hint out there. They will just be teaching it, not specifically like how to use it, but what you need to know out of it. So it's applicable to either desktop or online. It will be applicable to both. And then October 18th, this is not even published, you're getting inside information. We have our Small to Big Business Forum returning. So if you have a product that you would like to sell to a big business, we have multiple businesses coming in. We're calling it Meet the Buyers. They will actually walk through the process on how to actually sell to the larger companies in town. Very, very valuable information. That is a half-day seminar as well. And then November 9th, we will be back with our Small Business Success Summit. Last year, we had 265 small businesses join us. This year, we're predicted to be over 300. We will be announcing our 3 keynotes, which I'm very excited about, very quickly. And then we also have our 18 breakout sessions decided as of today. So all that information will be coming out in the next 2 weeks. So thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at some of the events coming up. And if you have questions, feel free to hang around and ask Laura. Otherwise, I'm here as a resource for you as always. Thanks for joining us today.